Hey kiddos, into Craig and the rest of the TRGA team, welcome. I feel disenfranchised with the Game Awards. The only reason I paid any attention to the event in the last couple of years is thanks to the fact that with E3 gone, it's really the only place where we can get exciting announcements for games, which most of the time are not worth watching through the 4 hours of stupid ads and Hollywood BS. And, the awards part of the Game Awards is meaningless to me. This is mainly due to the fact that those who actually decide what wins have eroded my trust in them. So seeing you guys try your hand at it feels like a breath of fresh air, and I really do hope that this can become a proper alternative to the Game Awards. I do, however, have some gripes for the show that you guys did present, and I'm hoping that this video can serve as a genuine critique of a show that I think that has a lot of potential. So know that while these critiques will confirm a place of tough love, it is love nevertheless. I will separate the video into 3 sections. First, we're going to go over the opening disclaimer by Craig at the top of the show, the nominations, and lastly, what can change to make the show better next year. There's going to be a lot of growing pains and you will have to make big changes, but I do think the show has the potential to rival the Game Awards in the future. And by the way guys, like the video, subscribe, it helps the channel. I'd also like to say up front that I do not care to engage in culture war, politics, or debates in this specific video, though I will be touching adjacent topics. This video is just the opinion of someone who loves gaming and what I would do to make the Gaming Awards show better, and a critique I do provide is with that fact in mind. I just like games. Let's start with the disclaimers at the top of the show from Craig. Some of the things said here by him were clearly responses to specific people in the industry and their state of mind when it comes to these extravagant award shows that don't represent your average gamer. I liked it is not to gamers, but I don't think you had to beat the point so hard. Going so far as showing a really low quality, pixelated and extremely zoomed in clip of Alyssa Mercanti showing how disconnected she is from your average gamer to prove your point really took the quality of the stream down right at the start. Is this going to be a proper and better Game Awards show or just a middle finger to the other guys? You know what I mean? Also, don't downplay the talent in your show. I realize you wish to come across as humble, but having James Rolfe and the legendary Halo composer Marty O'Donnell be on your show is pretty big if you ask me. Plus, all the other presenters are big names in their own right. Now that I mentioned Marty, by the way, there's something else that I also take issue with that Craig mentioned in the opener. He said that
you won't see acceptance speeches for winners because, let's be real, you don't care.
No. I do care about the developers who make the works of art that we all enjoy. Their vision is what makes these games possible after all. Next year, I would like for you guys to reach out for comments and see if anyone would like to send in a recorded thank you video accepting the award, or better yet, send someone there live to accept it if you do end up keeping the promise you made at the end of the show of doing it live next year. I'm looking forward to it. I'm now going to go over an assortment of critiques regarding the nominations, pointing out things I could get a second look at. RoboCop, a game from 2023, won FPS of the Year in a 2024 awards show. Having a Best in 10 though, Sony and Microsoft IP award feels pointless and like padding, especially when most of the IPs in those categories didn't even release games in 2024. Separating sports games from racing games is a good move, and I commend you for that, but also Rocket League won Best Sports Game, which is a 9-year-old game. And Final Fantasy XIV winning Best MMO is a bit wild. I realize that this is a 100% community voted event, well, sort of, I'll get to that later, but this is like giving World of Warcraft MMO of the Year during the Shadowlands expansion. The game is in a really bad spot right now. I say this as a massive fan of the game. 100% community voting does bring the issue of turning some awards into pure popularity contests, which is what I suspect happened here. Sure, community voting is still a better system than what the Game Awards has, but as with everything, it could be improved. Cases like these don't represent the actual states of the game and make your show, in my opinion, lose some credibility. I have drafted up some suggestions and I'd love to send them to the TRDA team, but it's obviously up to them if they want to modify it. Camelot presenting the best racing game is a great choice, and I wish you guys had done more of this with the other awards. Get Maximilian Dude for fighting games, or maybe some FPS influencer like Shroud or whatever to present the Best FPS award. I like that little detail that you guys did, and I hope to see more of that in the future. Also, Oleg Baldwin's finger shouldn't have plugged his own channel at the end of his segment during the nominations, and Valiant Renegade shouldn't have his logo when presenting the award. These are minor nitpicks, sure, but removing these things will increase the quality of the show. Having a lead supporter of the show, Jimmy, present an award is a nice touch, and I hope to see more of that in the future. I personally love that, to involve like people in your own community that supported the show, be a part part of the show. In the future, if an indie game category is to be created, it should definitely be presented by the elite supporter. Also, please have B-roll of the games being nominated. Having zero B-roll made this show feel like a glorified PowerPoint presentation moving from slide to slide, and you need to have more charismatic hosts presenting the nominations. There were a lot of low energy announcements for some of the winners, and this has to be exciting, okay? And lastly, regarding the gaming nominations themselves, I think you guys did maybe a bit too many negative awards, and perhaps some of them could have been made into one. An example of this being AVGN's shitty ass game of the year, and the biggest industry failure. Just make James present the award that is sort of branded after his style and consolidate the rest into that one. Oh, and get rid of the bait and switch award. None of the games nominated in it sold to their players something different than what they advertised. There's no need to call them fraudulent. They're just bad games. Moving on to what needs to be made better. Okay, voting having a $30 entry fee is honestly insane. And yes, I heard the argument about it being a better way to filter out bots. Listen, you guys just won't have that big of an issue with botting. I'd rather you be honest about taking the money up front instead of telling your audience it's for the integrity of the show, and allow for gamers who wish to have their voice heard to chime in. Bigger shows like the VTuber Awards are able to have completely community voted events, and botting wasn't a concern for them. I'm sorry, but it's just a little silly to me, and it feels like gatekeeping, especially compared to the bigger events. There's also another issue I have with the actual awards being showcased here. Even though the host of the show claims that it's not a political show, and this is true to a certain extent, it's hard to ignore certain patterns. Many of the people presenting the awards are aligned more or less on the same side politically. This isn't a problem for me. In fact, I like people like Kershaw, Camelot, and Valiant, and I watch their content. But when you pair this with some of the comments the hosts made, it creates a rather hostile dynamic. I mean, dude, Alyssa Mercati got like 2 to 3 shots lobbed at her on a 35-minute short show. I get that she's an unlikable bitch, but guys, video games? And while no overt political discussions took place during the show, it felt off that the nominees for Worst Journalist were from one political leaning, while those for Best Journalist were mostly in line with the host's own perspectives. This creates an impression, whether intentional or not, that the awards were less about journalistic merit and more about reinforcing certain political biases. Now, I don't think that this was your intention at all, but if we awarded categories in this way, I would so humbly posit that you're more or less doing the same thing that the other side does, which leads to this impression that I got. The issue is then compounded by the fact that the categories for Best Journalist and Worst Journalist themselves are flawed. It's clear that many of the individuals being nominated aren't actually doing traditional journalism. They're producing critiques, opinion pieces, or video essays, and some of them do some acts of journalism which all have value in their own right, but it's not journalism. There's a fundamental distinction between journalism, which focuses on fact-based reporting, and commentary, which is subjective and opinion-driven. The conflation of these roles is what got us here in the first place in the gaming industry. It rewards alignment with certain ideologies over actual journalistic work. In my opinion, if we want to go back to the good old days of gaming, this should be rethought or removed entirely so this event can be a proper alternative to the Game Awards. My preference would be to remove the category altogether. Categories like these feel counterproductive when done this way. I would like to see you guys lead by example, not be more of the same. I'd replace these categories with awards that highlight the incredible creative work being done in the industry. Isn't that the entire purpose of a Game Awards show? It's why the lack of categories like Best Sound Design, Best Indie Game, Best Score or Music, Best Art Direction, or Best Mobile Game being missing is a huge missed opportunity. Again, let me stress, the show featured Marty O'Donnell, the legendary composer of the Halo series, but you had him present Best Multiplayer Experience, yet you guys could apparently spare 2 journalism-related awards, one slot that felt like a self-congratulatory celebration of one side, and another slot that seemed designed to exclusively ridicule the perceived political opposition. And you can't say we aren't political on one hand, but on the other hand, the specific person on the opposite side over and over and over again. It just doesn't feel right. All that being said, I'm looking forward to what you guys end up cooking next year. I realize how difficult that is to do something like this, and I do wholeheartedly want to commend you for it. Screw Attack, in no small part, was a success due to people like Craig being involved in the project. And I know you and a lot of the people involved have it in you to make something special that could properly represent the community. I am genuinely excited for what you guys do next year, and I'm hoping that you can be the replacement I need for the Game Awards. To Craig and the team, thank you for taking this this bold first step into creating something fresh. You laid the groundwork of what could be a true alternative to the Game Awards. It's clear that you're passionate about gaming, and that passion is what the industry really needs right now. With some key improvements, a stronger focus on celebrating the games themselves, and a little bit more polish, I do believe you can deliver something special next year. Keep striving, keep refining. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Take care.